All right, today we're diving into a piece of technology that's aiming to build a brand new bridge for the entire world of finance. It's called the Canton Network, and it might just be the roadmap for how all the big financial players work together in the future. But to really get why this is such a big deal, we first have to talk about the problem it's trying to solve. And it is a huge one, something that's been putting the brakes on the financial world for a long, long time. It's all about how stuff, money and information, actually moves between the giants of the industry. So just think about this for a second. We live in an age where you can talk to someone on the other side of the planet instantly. So why can it still be so incredibly slow and expensive to move a big chunk of money or trade assets between two different banks? Well, the short answer is fragmentation. The best way to picture this is to imagine that every bank, every stock exchange, every single financial institution is its own little island. Seriously, each one has its own language, its own rules, its own tech. They just don't connect. So to get anything done between them, you have to rely on these fleets of slow, expensive boats, what we call intermediaries, to ferry messages and assets back and forth. It's inefficient, it's risky, and boy, is it costly. So if the problem is a whole ocean separating these isolated islands, what's the solution? Well, it's pretty obvious, right? You build a bridge. And that is exactly what the Canton Network is designed to be. Let's break that down because there's a lot in there. Layer 1 blockchain just means it's the foundation. Think of it like the fundamental plumbing for a new financial internet. But the really crucial parts are for financial institutions and with built-in privacy. This thing is a purpose-built tool that finally lets those islands connect directly, swapping assets and info in real time, all while keeping their super sensitive data totally private from anyone not involved in the deal. And listen, this is a really, really important point to get straight. The second people hear blockchain, their minds just jump to Bitcoin or other public cryptocurrencies. Canton is a totally different beast. It's not for you and me to trade. This is a private, members-only network for the big guys. A professional-grade tool designed from the ground up to play by the strict rules and regulations of global finance. Okay, so we get the what, but what about the how? How does this bridge actually work, especially if there's no single company in charge of everything? Let's get into the mechanics of it. It really all comes down to 4 key ideas. First, you've got this base layer where all the institutions can plug in and use smart contracts, which are basically just self-executing digital agreements. Second, and this is the magic part, is privacy. Unlike public blockchains where every transaction is out in the open, here, data is only shared on a need-to-know basis. Third, you've got interoperability, which is a fancy way of saying completely different computer systems can now talk to each other without a hitch. And finally, no one owns it. There's no CEO of Canton. It's run by a neutral foundation which keeps things fair for everyone. And honestly, there's this fantastic quote that just nails the whole concept. It's the perfect analogy. Imagine a giant Zoom call that every financial institution in the world can join. But instead of it being one massive chaotic mess, you can create an infinite number of private breakout rooms where only the people you invite can hear what's going on. That's Canton. It's a common meeting place with guaranteed private conversations. All right, so the technology is pretty cool, but what's actually going to be moving across these new digital bridges? What's the real-world use for all this? Well, the main event, the whole point of this, is something called asset tokenization. And it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually super simple. You take a real-world asset, like a government bond, or a share of stock, or even a building, and you create a secure digital version of it, a token, that can live and be traded on the blockchain. And that means you can trade them instantly 24/7. And look, this is not some far off in the future idea. This project is happening now. It's well-funded. They raised $135 million just last year. And get this, by 2026, the plan is to start tokenizing U.S. Treasury bonds. We're talking about one of the most important financial assets on the planet. This is a huge, concrete step toward making this digital future a reality. So, what's the bottom line here? What does this all add up to? Well, by putting real assets onto a network like Canton, the whole financial system just gets better.
Transactions become way faster, settling in seconds instead of days. It's safer because that privacy is baked right in. It's a whole lot cheaper because you're cutting out a lot of those middlemen, the boat captains we talked about. And crucially, it's all designed from day one to work within existing financial rules.
So, when you kind of zoom out and put all these pieces together, you start to see a much, much bigger picture emerge. This isn't just about tweaking the old system to make it a little more efficient. This is about unlocking completely new ways of doing things. The big, audacious goal here is to unlock what's called liquidity. All that means is making it easier for money and assets to flow quickly and freely to wherever they're needed most. I mean, think about it. When assets that used to be clunky and slow to trade can suddenly be swapped instantly, it just opens up so many more opportunities for investment, it sparks innovation, and it could seriously kickstart growth across the entire market. And that really brings us to our final thought. For hundreds of years, the financial world has been built on trust and intermediaries, those very boats sailing between the islands. A technology like the Canton Network is basically saying, we might not need them anymore. So the massive question it leaves us with is this. Is the world actually ready for a financial system built on bridges instead of boats?